The biggest banker in America and the Senate's fiercest bank critic just landed on the same side, against crypto's biggest bill. Two people who agree on nothing, agreeing on this. That should stop you cold. Because on paper, Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren are supposed to be enemies. One runs JPMorgan, the most powerful bank on the planet. The other has built her whole career fighting banks exactly like his. They don't agree on taxes, they don't agree on Wall Street, they don't agree on almost anything. And yet, when it comes to the crypto bill that could reshape this entire industry, somehow they both ended up pumping the brakes. Different reasons, same result. Now, I know exactly how that sounds. Secret backroom deal. The elites teaming up against the little guy. And I'm going to be straight with you. That's not it. This is not a conspiracy. The truth is actually more useful than that. Because underneath all the noise, there's one real question being fought over in Washington right now. Who gets to control digital dollars? The banks or crypto? And here's the twist almost nobody saw coming. The same banks fighting this bill so hard might be the ones who end up needing it the most. I'll show you why. So today, we cut through the politics completely. No teams, no villains, just what each side actually wants, why it matters, and where XRP and Ripple's own stablecoin sit in the middle of all of it. Let's get into it. Quick note, this is not financial advice, and it's not political. I'm not attacking anyone, and I'm not picking a party. I'm laying out what each side actually said, so you can decide for yourself. Any scenario I mention is an opinion, not a promise. So protect your family, do your own research, and don't let anyone rush you, including me. All right, let's get into it. So let's start with why this is even weird. Because if you feel it, you'll understand the whole story. Picture the two people we're talking about. On one side, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan, the largest bank in America, the ultimate Wall Street insider. On the other side, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who has spent years as one of the most aggressive critics of big banks in the entire country. These two are not friends. In a normal week, they're on opposite ends of almost every fight you can name. And yet, on the biggest crypto bill in years, the one people call the Clarity Act, both of them have been throwing cold water on it. Now, and this is important, they are not doing it together, and not for the same reasons. Warren isn't carrying water for JPMorgan, and Dimon isn't teaming up with Senator Warren. That's the lazy story, and it's wrong. What's actually happening is more interesting. Two completely different people, with completely different motives, looked at this bill and both said, not like this. When a Wall Street titan and a Wall Street watchdog independently hit the brakes on the same thing, it's usually a sign that the bill touches something really, really valuable. Something worth fighting over. So, what is that thing? What's so important that it can put these two on the same side of a headline? Here's a hint. It's not Bitcoin. It's not even XRP directly, at least not at first. It's something quieter that most people scroll right past. And once you see it, this entire fight suddenly makes sense. Let me start with Dimon, because his angle is the one people get completely wrong. All right, let me clear up the biggest myth first, because you've probably heard it. People love to say Jamie Dimon hates crypto. And yeah, for years he was brutal about Bitcoin, called it a fraud, said he'd fire employees for trading it. That part's true, but here's what changed, and it matters. In his own 2026 letter to shareholders, Dimon basically flipped the script. He wrote that a whole new set of competitors is emerging, built on blockchain, stablecoins, smart contracts, tokenization, and instead of laughing them off, he said JPMorgan needs to roll out its own blockchain technology, and fast. And they have. JPMorgan already runs its own blockchain unit. It has its own coin for moving money instantly. It's building tokenized versions of funds and deposits. So let's kill the myth right now. Dimon is not fighting to keep crypto down. His bank is already deep in it. So what is he actually fighting? One specific thing. Stablecoins that pay you interest. Let me make this simple. A stablecoin is just a digital dollar. Normally you hold it and that's it. But imagine a digital dollar that also pays you a yield just for holding it. Kind of like interest in a savings account. Except it lives in a crypto wallet, not a bank. Now ask yourself, if you could get a solid yield holding a digital dollar in an app, why would you leave your money sitting in a big bank earning almost nothing? That right there is Dimon's nightmare. Because banks run on your deposits. That's the raw material they lend against and profit from. And if yield-bearing stablecoins pull even a slice of those deposits out of the banking system, that's a direct hit to the entire business model. So Dimon's public argument is basically this. Fine, let stablecoins exist, but make them play by the same rules banks do. Same capital requirements, same oversight, a level playing field, in his words. Now supporters of crypto hear that and say, come on, that's just the biggest bank in the world trying to bury a competitor in red tape before it gets going. And honestly, both of those things can be true at once. It can be a fair concern about stability and a convenient way to slow down a rival. You can decide which one you believe. But hold that thought, because Dimon is only half of this story. The other half comes from someone who wants the exact opposite of what JPMorgan wants. And that's where Senator Warren comes in. So let's be just as fair to the other side, because that's the whole point of this channel. Senator Elizabeth Warren is not anti-crypto regulation. In fact, she said clearly that she wants federal rules for digital assets. What she's against is this specific bill in its current form, and her reasons have nothing to do with protecting JPMorgan's deposits. They're a totally different set of worries. She's laid out her priorities publicly. She wants strong investor protections. She wants to make sure existing securities laws don't get quietly bypassed. She wants tough anti-money laundering rules. And she's raised a big concern about what she calls loopholes, where a regular company could tokenize itself, basically put its shares on a blockchain to sidestep the normal rules that protect investors. And then there's the ethics piece, which has become the single biggest sticking point in the whole negotiation. Warren and several other senators want strict rules preventing public officials from personally profiting off crypto while they're writing the laws for it. The other side argues the rules should apply evenly to everyone, from the president down to the newest intern, and shouldn't single out one specific person or office. That disagreement, believe it or not, is a huge part of why this bill is stuck. Now, I want to be careful and honest here. Plenty of people think Warren is being too harsh, that she's slowing down rules the industry actually needs, and even some folks in her own party want to move forward. Senator Tim Scott, who chairs the Banking Committee, has said he believes over a dozen Democrats are open to supporting a market structure bill, and points to Warren as a main reason more haven't. So this isn't a case of everyone agreeing with her. It's a real fight, with real disagreement. And reasonable people land on different sides of it. But step back and notice the shape of this. Dimon is worried about competition and bank stability. Warren is worried about consumer protection and ethics. Two totally different engines, and yet both of them right now are reasons this bill isn't moving. So what happens next? That's where the twist comes in, and it's the part that flips the whole story on its head. Okay, this is the part I really wanted to get to because almost nobody is talking about it. Everyone assumes the banks are winning by slowing this bill down. Delay it, kill it, and crypto loses, right? But look closer, and it's not that simple. Because here's the irony. The banks might actually need this bill to pass. Stay with me. Remember that stablecoin yield thing Dimon is so worried about? Well, a separate law already on the books opened the door to stablecoins in the first place. So that digital dollar train has already left the station. The question now is just how it gets regulated and where the limits are. And here's the catch. If Congress does not pass a clear bill, then the rules don't just disappear. They get written somewhere else. By the regulators, the agencies, and that's a much messier, less predictable process for everyone, banks included. A bank would much rather have clear lines written into law that it can plan around than a chaotic free-for-all where yield-bearing stablecoins grow in the gray area while regulators scramble to catch up. So the delay that looks like a win for the banks today could quietly become a problem for them tomorrow. That's the twist. In trying to slow crypto down, they may be creating the exact uncertainty that hurts them most. Quick pause. I want you in on this. Before this video, did you realize the banks fighting this bill might actually need it to pass? Just type yes or no in the comments. I'm genuinely curious, because this is the part that flips how most people see the whole fight. And here's where it finally comes back around to us, to XRP. Because this entire war is being fought over digital dollars, over stablecoins. And Ripple has its own regulated stablecoin sitting right in the middle of exactly this arena. So the outcome of this fight isn't some distant Washington drama. It touches the XRP world directly. Let me show you how. So let's bring it all the way home and tie it to what you actually care about. First, here's a fact that a lot of people completely missed, and it's a big one. Earlier this year, the two main US regulators, the SEC and the CFTC, put out a joint classification naming a group of assets as digital commodities, meaning outside the reach of securities law. And XRP was right at the top of that list. Think about that for a second. While everyone is fighting over this bill, XRP's own status quietly got clearer, on the record, from the regulators themselves. That's not nothing. That's years of uncertainty starting to lift. So, the Clarity Act is not the thing that decides whether XRP is a commodity. That question already got a real answer. What this bill is really about, the part that touches XRP now, is the stablecoin side, the digital dollar side. And that's where Ripple's own stablecoin comes in, sitting right in the middle of the exact fight Dimon and Warren are circling. So here's the honest picture. If clear rules for stablecoins arrive, whether from Congress or from the regulators, that's a green light for exactly the kind of regulated, compliant digital dollar Ripple has been building. And more digital dollars settling on the XRP Ledger is a real, functional use of that network. Not a promise, not a price prediction, just plumbing that gets more used. Now, let me be crystal clear, because I always will be. Does any of this mean the price goes up? No. There are no guarantees here. This bill could stall for a long time. The stablecoin fight could drag on. Competition is fierce. Other networks want this same lane, and nobody, me included, knows the timing. Anyone who tells you they're certain is guessing with a straight face. So what do you do with all this? Nothing dramatic. You don't panic, and you don't bet the house because two famous names showed up in a headline. You never risk money your family depends on. Please, protect your household first, do your own research, and take your time. Because this story plays out over years, not over one news cycle. What I want you to walk away with is clarity of your own. The next time you see a scary headline about banks versus crypto, you'll understand the real fight underneath it. It's a fight over digital dollars. And whether people notice it yet or not, XRP is sitting right in the middle of it. This has been Crypto with BHW. We're early. The foundation is being poured. And I'll see you in the very next one.